Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been a controversial figure in Israeli politics and a reluctant partner for peace with the Palestinians. Mohamed Vall now takes a look at his rise to power.
Do the Palestinians have a right to a separate state?
No, I don't think they do. But I think
this was as far back as 1978, and ever since, Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't seem to have changed his mind. In trying to stick to that position, he didn't challenge only the Palestinians, but he also confronted US presidents, his own people, and the international community.
So the UN's hostility.
From his Polish father, Benjamin Netanyahu inherited the view that the Jews can never integrate into any other society, and the only way they can survive is to create and live inside an impenetrable fortress of their own.
History will not give the Jewish people another chance.
Netanyahu, the name his father adopted upon arriving in Palestine, found in the right-wing conservative Likud party his natural political home. As a student in the US, then a soldier in the Israeli army, and finally a politician, he insisted that security comes only by force. His rallying cry has been to keep Israel safe. Yet his political career thrived on Israel's insecurity. His success in elections invariably came during moments of collective fear and uncertainty generated by Palestinian attacks. And analysts say he's paid lip service to peace while never intending to seek it. Shortly after his first election as Israeli Prime Minister in 1996, he flew to the US for a showdown with President Clinton about the Oslo Accords agreed between Israel and the Palestinian Liberation Organization. Clinton wanted him to abide by the deal. He wanted to trash it.
And I'm the leader of a...
Years later, he told President Obama to his face that he wouldn't freeze the building of settlements in the occupied West Bank or allow the right of return for Palestinian refugees.
It's not going to happen. Everybody knows it's not going to happen. And I think it's time to tell the Palestinians forthrightly, it's not going to happen.
Netanyahu continued to harden his stance as he made his return to power. With the support of AIPAC, the powerful Zionist lobby in Washington, he was caught on tape bragging about his ability to manipulate the US and its leaders to serve Israeli interests. As a result, the Palestinian cause was all but forgotten. In 2020, Israel signed what was declared the deal of the century, known as the Abraham Accords, whereby it would normalize ties with several Arab countries without clear guarantees for the creation of a Palestinian state. But just as it was on the verge of signing a historic deal with Saudi Arabia, the October 7 attacks shook the region. In the run-up, Netanyahu had been mired in scandals and facing charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis took to the streets in protest against his legal reforms aimed at reducing the power of the judiciary. But after launching what became a genocide in Gaza, he won the support of nearly 95% of Israelis. Even as many again took to the streets in anger about the failure to bring back scores of hostages held by Hamas. Netanyahu ignored them, and he derailed every attempt to achieve peace by continuing to refuse to sign a deal with Hamas.
The UN will be viewed by fair-minded people everywhere as nothing more than a contemptuous farce.
To get his way, Netanyahu defied the world, insulted the UN, and shrugged off a bid by the International Criminal Court to arrest him for alleged war crimes.
Criminal responsibility.
And to keep power, he surrounded himself with ultra-religious politicians bent on expelling the Palestinians and destroying the Aqsa Mosque to build a Jewish temple on the site. His final action appeared to be aimed at subduing the entire region through the force of arms.
There is no place in Iran that the long arm of Israel cannot reach.
Critics say his approach is motivated by a desire to be remembered as the powerful hero who saved the Jewish people and defeated their enemies, along with a desperate need to stay in power as long as he can to continue to enjoy immunity against prosecution. But some believe that through his actions, Netanyahu may end up destroying those two dreams altogether. Mohamed Vall, Al Jazeera.
Let's talk now to Al Jazeera's senior political analyst, Marwan Bishara, joins us now from London. He's live, of course. So Marwan, pretty evident from that report just how set Benjamin Netanyahu is in his thinking. And listening to that, you wonder, is this a man who will seek equitable resolution to all of this?
Absolutely not. I mean, I couldn't have probably said that about any other Israeli leader, including some of his mentors like Shamir and Begin and Sharon and so on. But this man is the ultimate pathological liar. He's also the ultimate Israeli fascist. He is really a new generation of Israeli fascists that have no memory of 1948, of the Nakba, of what Israel did to the Palestinians. He grew up between Israel and the United States, and with his silky tongue, he doesn't really understand. I don't think he has any empathy or sympathy whatsoever towards the others who have inhabited the land for the past millennia. So in a way, he's the modern Israeli fascist. He is very violent. He's very hateful. He's quite the racist and a populist. And there's no other political animal, demonic, I would say, political animal of his talent, in a way that he was able, since 1996, to be the longest-serving prime minister in Israel, and to be able to define and shape modern Israel as a new colonial apartheid state. This was possible because of his various political talents, if you will, but also because, as I said, he's the ultimate pathological liar who was able to increase his popularity even in the darkest of time after October 7.
Right, and we are where we are now. We have, Marwan, you and I have talked a lot over the past year about this situation, and we've heard some pretty powerful voices over the course of this programme. What stands out to you as we reflect over the past year?
You know, when I look back the past several weeks trying to get my mind around what just happened, I concluded, Nick, that it was in the first 12 days of the war that this entire 12 months of the year were defined. And I think the next few years will be defined. Why do I say the first 12 days? That's, of course, when Israel declared war on Gaza. But that's also when they demonized the people in Gaza, and not just Hamas, manufacturing a case for genocide. And Israel done that with the United States when President Biden came to Israel only a few days after October 7 in order to coordinate the war on Gaza that was coming up, when the United States would shield, would arm, and would finance Israel's genocide in Gaza. So what happened is two things that, you know, as an academic, as a journalist, I will not forget. It's the lies. There was so much lying about what happened on October 7. And Netanyahu led the way, and Biden supported and repeated after him like a parrot about the various myths that were debunked soon after by the New York Times, by CNN, by other, Western networks. And yet they continue to be repeated until this week, like bundling together a bunch of babies, decapitating them or burning them or executing them, and executing entire families, repeating those sorts of demonic, evil lies about the Palestinians, about what happened October 7, in order to pave the way for genocide. And I think by October 19, 12 days later, Biden contextualized Gaza in a geopolitical context, saying, like Ukraine, like Taiwan, in Gaza, we have to focus, we have to support Israel because this is also American interest. And since then, based on lies, based on racism, based on silencing the media in Israel and beyond, in the West and so on and so forth, we've seen genocide unravel with total American support to a rogue Israeli prime minister, rogue government of religious fanatics who are ready to carry the worst atrocities in Gaza.
Okay, so given all of that, what's your sense, briefly if you would, Marwan, about what will happen next? Israel is still apparently determined to retaliate for that barrage of Iranian ballistic missiles. Where are we at, do you think?
I'll go back to your earlier question about Netanyahu. I think he's capable of the worst. I think he is preparing, in his words, to reshape the Middle East. And I think in that sense, he will probably embark on a even wider war against Lebanon than in Gaza. I hope it's not going to get to that, but clearly he is preparing for another round of war crimes against the Lebanese people. And I think he might move from there on to Syria and Iran, and clearly he's preparing for the ultimate attack against Iran. And he's actually speaking of regime change in Iran, despite the fact that we know from the past 20 years what happened when even the Americans and the British spoke about regime change in Iraq or in the Middle East in general. It's just a total disaster. But for a little, shoot hole country like Israel to be speaking about transforming the entire Middle East, you really think twice about what are they thinking. They can't even win a war against Gaza. Even today, missiles are being, shot against Tel Aviv. For them to think that they can transform the Middle East is just reckless, and it's going to perhaps bring everyone down with them.
All right, Marwan, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for that, Marwan Bishara, Al Jazeera senior political analyst. Thank you.